It's Austin from the In the House podcast. Today we're going to talk about the Indiana Pacers. Just wanted to make a short video talking about what all they've been able to do. Kind of regarding their win yesterday against the Knicks in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals at Madison Square Garden, where they were down 17 points in the fourth quarter, found themselves down 14 points with 2 minutes and 45 seconds left to go in the game, and were down 9 with a minute remaining, and they went on to win the game in overtime. Just a sensational comeback for the Indiana Pacers, one for the ages, one that will be remembered for quite some time. Aaron Nesmith with 6 threes, 20 points in the fourth quarter to, kind of energize the Pacers comeback. Tyrese Haliburton, he's been able to do this quite a bit, no surprise, is able to send the game into overtime with a game-tying shot. A couple shoe sizes away from giving Game 1 to the Pacers, but foot on the line for 2. But he makes an absolutely clutch shot, sends the game into overtime where the Pacers are able to come away with the win. And, this Pacers team, it just feels like they're never out of a game. They're always able to find a comeback. They've done it in the playoffs. They did it against Milwaukee in that game where Milwaukee was up. Gary Trent Jr. Was playing well, but he had the ball bounce in between his legs, and the Pacers were able to come back on, I believe, a Tyrese Haliburton driving layup. Was able to put them ahead in that game, and then they did it against Cleveland in the second round as well. Had a big comeback that kind of nobody was expecting, but they just keep finding ways to do it. It feels like nobody expects them to, but they keep doing it. And what kind of fascinates me about doing it against the Knicks is the Knicks have kind of been titled as this fourth quarter team all season long. If they could just get to the fourth quarter, they have a run in them. They're going to play well in the fourth quarter every game. The Knicks, they were able to go on some runs in the fourth quarter against Boston, that they were able to win that series. Kind of felt like they were almost invincible in the fourth quarter. So when you see they have a 17-point lead, it's almost like, okay, Knicks get Game 1. How are the Pacers going to respond in Game 2? But no, the Pacers come back down 17 points on the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. It's just kind of crazy. I don't think anybody was really expecting that, except for the Pacers. They're a group that believes in themselves. They feel like they're never out of the game, with what they're able to do. They just have guys all over the court that are just winners. I think that they just make winning plays all the time. You look at a guy like Andrew Nembhard, everybody's going to remember Haliburton and Nesmith, but what Nembhard did in overtime, I think, is really going underrated right now. Chips in 7 points in overtime. First, he kind of stops the momentum in a really big play. The Knicks had scored the first 4 points in overtime to go up 129 to 125. Kind of felt like on the Knicks side, like, oh, you let the Pacers come back, but we're gonna win this thing in overtime. Up 4 points. All the momentum. The Madison Square Garden was rocking, but Andrew Nembhard was able to kind of quiet the crowd, get the Pacers settled into overtime with that hard fall away 3. And then he was able to get a switch on a Jalen Brunson on the right wing, able to drive on Jalen Brunson for a layup, and then he was able to catch just Josh Hart just sleeping on a back cut for a layup. That's 7 big points that, I think maybe if you're a Pacers fan, if you think you tell them they're going to win that game, they probably think it's going to be Haliburton or maybe Nesmith who's been hot. But Nembhard chipping in 7 points, I think, was really big for them. And as well, Obi Toppin, that's a forward coming off their bench that has 2 big dunks in overtime that I think also really helped them. So they just got guys everywhere. Miles Turner's a great rim protector, can shoot it, can score it well. Pascal Siakam, he's a fantastic secondary all-star, whatever you want to call him, that's able to complement this team very well. Ben Shepherd, look at what he did. Coming in after not playing the first 3 quarters and able to play very well in the fourth quarter, and I think a little bit of overtime as well, guarding Brunson some. He was able to play really well, just coming in cold. I think that's a really big. Benedict Matherin, kind of a do-it-all wing off the bench. He can defend, can score. Great complimentary piece there for the Pacers. It just feels like they have guys. They're going to be led by Haliburton most of the games here, but they got it. It just feels like anybody else can step up on a given night, and I think that makes this team really dangerous, especially when trying to get back into a game in the fourth quarter. Like, was anybody really expecting Nesmith to go off for 20 in the fourth quarter? But he did. Yeah, it's just, I think, kind of the art of this Pacers team is like they're never out of it, because you never know who can step up. Like, obviously Halliburton's going to be clutch. We know that. But I mean, it feels like they can have anybody else step up in the fourth quarter in a big way too. And I mean, you want to look at them defensively. Like, they were playing. They struggled earlier in the game, but in that fourth quarter and overtime, I feel like they were really able to hammer down on the defensive end. You saw Nimhard again in overtime, another great play on the defensive side of the ball. He was able to get that tip that ended up off of Jalen Brunson, giving the ball back to the Pacers, which was really big. It just feels like, there are a bunch of guys that are almost underrated, which seems kind of crazy since everybody voted Tyrese Haliburton the most overrated player. But these guys, they just seem like winning players. They do what it takes to win, play as a collective. They make the right plays. It's just it's a fundamental team, but they're not afraid to get physical either. Like, this is going to be a scrappy, physical series. You could tell from that game one. I'm sure the Knicks are ready to get back at the Pacers here. So it's going to be a very physical series. And I think the Indiana Pacers are up to that task. I think they're not afraid to get their hands dirty. They can play some bruiser basketball. And I think the Pacers are going to be a tough team to knock out. Whether it's the Knicks here, or if the Pacers can advance, whoever they play, either the Timberwolves or the Thunder. It's just, they're going to be a tough team to knock out, because they're never out of the game, and they make the right play, and they play as a group. And when it comes down to that fourth quarter, like, they got a guy in Tyrese Haliburton who's going to make fantastic clutch plays, but they got other guys who can step up too. So this Indiana Pacers team, it just feels like they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year on a run. Nobody really expected that run out of them, but they make it to the conference finals, end up getting swept by Boston. But I think people forget, and then we need to remind people that 3 of those 4 games with Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals from last year were very close, and they could have gone the Pacers' way if some things have gone differently there. So this Pacers team, I mean, I think everybody kind of thought it was going to be a Cavs Celtics Eastern Conference Finals, but actually neither of those teams made it. But the Pacers, they look hard to beat right now, and I'm just going to be. It's going to be fascinating to see how far they can go, and I'm going to enjoy watching them as far as they can get, and for the next couple of years while they have this group. But